Well, the NFPL season for the women has come to a controversial close. For the championship to decide, our inaugural women's season was played behind closed doors. Fans were given a recording of the game today as a live stream, and it appears that the NFPL tried to cover up some mistakes on their end with scheduling and got caught red-handed. First of all, before I get into this video and let my emotion get the best of me, or possibly have oversight on what really matters here, is the teams that participated. Michigan Futsal Factory's girls, as well as Grand Rapids OLE's girls, both deserve the utmost congratulations on successful seasons this season as part of history, and they earned every right to be in this championship match. It is not their fault that this turned out the way it did, but I'm sure that they are disappointed that they lost their chance in the spotlight on a true championship atmosphere, a true championship feeling and build up. I feel like the girls got robbed, and that's really the worst part about all of this, is the participants, after a long, hard season, got robbed out of a true championship experience. Here's what happened. It appears that the NFPL, while scheduling the league, had some scheduling conflicts. I'm hearing that there were multiple scheduling conflicts, also directly from the league, as they replied to a tweet of mine at the day of recording this on Sunday. I also hear that there's some conflicts with the Michigan High School Athletic Association's rules on what student athletes can participate in during and outside of seasons that are high school seasons as well. It really, truly is interesting to me that someone who runs this league and is an academy owner is not in tune with these laws in their state, but oversights do happen. We are all just human. Here we are. Maybe we give them a one-off on that. I've grappled with this all day as I planned for this recording. On one hand, I am shocked that they are not in tune with that. I know certainly the people who run the academy that I help coach and participate in are in tune with what our state's rules and regulations are on participation in and out of seasons with futsal. I would expect the same, especially from a successful academy like Futsal Factory that spans multiple states and has a very well-known program in the state of Michigan. It has a ton of alumni coming out of its program that have seen international and national success. I can think of 3 players on this Futsal Factory team that have seen club call-ups and tryouts, and even signings to teams like the Washington Spirit, and even appearances on a U17 national team for Mexico for one of their players. Surely they're keeping an eye on all these things, and clearly they are successful in teaching these kids the right things to be successful as they pursue their futsal and soccer careers. So the question is, how in the world did this happen? And why in the world would the league not just own up to it up front and be honest with the fans? I think that's one of the worst parts of this whole situation. For me, it's twofold. Number one, it's horrible that these girls were robbed of their opportunity to play in that championship atmosphere in front of all the fans they could possibly muster to show up to this game. It's an in-state rivalry. These teams aren't that far away that someone wouldn't drive from Ole's backyard to participate as a spectator and get loud in a championship atmosphere. Should have been an exclamation point on the end of a historic season for these women, and it was taken away from them by a simple lack of planning. The second thing for me is the fact that NFPL did not trust the fans with this information and felt the need to hide it from them and try to present this as a final on March 19th when it was not. Tweets were going out throughout the day today. There was a late push advertising this game for the championship match, which I guess was a head scratcher for me in the middle of the week. But now, in hindsight, clear why they didn't put a bunch of hype around this game, seeing as they would not be able to sell tickets to it since it already happened. Well, as it turns out, Futsal Factory has a supporters group. It's the only supporters group left in the NFPL, and they I'm sure we're trying to find a way to get to this game, and it came to light that the game had already happened. At that point, things started to stir on Twitter, and we saw comments throughout the day today. We saw a couple posts come down from the NFPL that presented this game as if it were going to happen live. We saw a response from Dockside Brigade, that supporters group from Ann Arbor. I'd like to read it to you guys now. First off, let me begin by thanking all the players involved. You are doing the best you can with the chances you were given. And to the ladies of Michigan Futsal Factory Academy, thank you for an amazing season. However, to say I am disappointed in the NFPL is an understatement. For me, the results of today's game mean very little to me given the events that have led up to today. For context, today was the NFPL Women's Championship between the top two teams of the regular season. The game was supposed to be played today at 5 p.m. However, there was no game, only a live stream, because the game was played in advance. And from the sources unconfirmed that I have heard, this game was played before the regular season was even finished. It was a game played behind closed doors where no fans were allowed to attend, and literally no one knew about this until the other day when the game was already played. It is things and moments that really make me step back and question what I am doing and why I spend the time and effort as a fan following and promoting this league. I have followed the league from the start and have followed MFFA back when they were the Ann Arbor Mud Puppies from day one. And how this league and these clubs treat their fans, the lifeblood of every club, is so disrespectful. Futsal is one of the greatest untapped sports in this nation, and with a chance to explode in popularity. And this league, the highest level of competition in the country, has constantly been underselling itself. They fail time and time again to advertise and promote this league or their teams. Examples being the 2021 Open Cup, where very few posts or live streams were available, or the Women's Summer Cup of 2022, the very first women's games ever in this league, and no results were even posted, and no links to the live stream were promoted from the league's website, only by individual teams. MFFA won the regular season and therefore deserved a home field advantage, which they earned. But if the league is not going to grant this team nor the fans the right to support this team, then us, the fans, should not give the right to respect the results of this game given all the reasons listed. From this time forward, I really hope the NFPL will be more transparent and more professional moving forward in how they conduct their business, because right now, this lack of professionalism is not cutting it, and it is a real smack in the face to the few fans that supported this league day in and day out since its inception. I also put a tweet out today acknowledging the fact that this game had already happened once the news broke and once it was confirmed that there was not a live game today. And the NFPL did reply to that tweet, to my surprise, and had this to say. We felt that this was the best course of action to ensure that a championship match was played rather than not at all, given the circumstances. It's been a great first season for the NFPL women, and we're excited about the future growth of women's futsal in the NFPL. So pretty basic canned answer and response from the NFPL, but we do appreciate them responding to the fans, me being one in particular. But my thoughts on this whole thing, and I will try to keep this as rantless as possible, but surely there is some personal opinion in this, as you guys can understand and probably feel yourselves brewing as we go through this. First and foremost, this is my first thought. Number one, you got to trust the fans with this information. You cannot present this as something that's not. Sure, the NFPL has the first women's league in the United States. You guys already know my feelings on how it was presented at the beginning of the season. I won't harp on that. You saw it in the comments from Dockside Brigade. It seems the founder who wrote that letter feels similarly to me in the fact that there was no exposure to the women's league over the summer during their Open Cup tournament. There was a lackluster announcement from the league well after that tournament had begun and the cat was out of the bag on this new division. We have a very successful season, in my opinion. I think that the league is correct in their statement that the season itself was very successful. We saw a futsal factory side, like I said, that was very dominant. They had a very close rival from their in-state rivals of Grand Rapids OLE, a team that you guys who follow the channel know I'm very close with and follow very closely throughout the season. And then you have a team like Columbus Futsal that, although they started out slow in the season, really started to seem to get in a groove in the second half of this first season and show signs of life that could really disrupt the table. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go their way for them to sneak into this championship match, but there's a lot of positive signs coming out of Columbus as well. Hopefully other teams will continue to consider joining the women's division and growing this sport for the women of this country. And it has never been more important than now when a U.S. women's futsal coach has been appointed. I pushed that video to the side to put this one out first, but keep an eye out for that later in the week. But honestly, what a great opportunity to showcase some players and do it live and have a true fan base that proves that people are interested in this. And we really see the league drop the ball. I don't understand why in these moments the league can't seem to pull things together. But for me, from my perspective, and no disrespect to anyone at all, but I look at a semi-pro league like the NFPL with a limited staff, and then your commissioner of said league is involved, in my opinion, in too many things. Drew Ducker is the commissioner of the league. He is also a player for Futsal Factory. He's also a coach for both the men and the women's sides. And then on top of that, outside of his league obligations, he, of course, runs a successful academy. To me, his hand is in too many things at once, and that is what could potentially cause things like this to happen. I know that it is semi-pro league. I know funding is an issue from the perspective of where does the money come from when you're at this semi-pro level. But for me, there either needs to be help or, in my opinion, unfortunately, I think Drew Ducker needs to step aside from a couple of these obligations, whether it be his time on the court, whether it be one of the coaching responsibilities, or whether he hires someone to operate as a GM for the league and do this running around and organize this league and let him be a board member or someone who maybe is a league owner and allow someone else to run it that has time to do so. Of course, where do you find these people in a budding sport like futsal that doesn't quite have the manpower? It's a classic issue in many parts of the world. Understaffed, underfunded. It's a growing sport. But if we don't get it right in these foundational moments, I don't think that the sport grows fast enough for the current generations to see a return on their investment, so to speak, and have opportunities on a national and international level from here. I also think that the league needs to put a big spotlight on women's futsal, and they need to trust the fans. If they would have trusted the fans with this and presented their issues with the women's scheduling, I think most, if not all, of the fans would have been understanding of the situation. Hey, look, it's our first time doing a women's division. We saw primarily high school aged players involved in it based on the feeder academies that were bubbling up this high level talent from the academy level from the teams involved already in the NFPL. Why wouldn't the fans be understanding that, hey, there's going to be some hiccups in this first season? But for me, they totally missed the mark by trying to pretend that there wasn't an issue. You guys might also be wondering what this means for me from my interaction with some of the teams that I'm involved in. As you guys may or may not know, I am a moderator in the chat for the NFPL. I am also doing the pregame show, of course, for Grand Rapids OLE and some other things. I run the Predictions League on Twitter, where fans can guess who the winners are going to be each week, similar to what is going on in England with their Predictions League for their FA NFS series. I still plan to do all those things. Although I am upset with the league right now, and although I feel they really did the fans wrong and disrespected us with not sharing this information and being transparent on such a silly thing, I do still adore Grand Rapids OLE. I wish they would have spoke up on the issues themselves, but that's here or there. Everyone has kind of got some dirt on their hands, unfortunately for Futsal Factory, with Drew Ducker's involvement all the way up and down that through to being a league commissioner as well. They see a brunt of the pain and the suffering from the public opinion, but the reality is this is a league issue. This is a league issue, and if not trusting the fans with this information was a horrendous mistake that otherwise would have been a blip on the radar and forgotten faster than you can say spring off season. What do you guys think about all this going on with the NFPL? Do you think this is a setback for the league and the lack of trust there is now that is brewing between fans and league? And what would you like to see come from the league to improve things and take better steps to present the league in a positive light and possibly grow this sport at a rocket ship paced rate like it is happening in other big countries in the world? I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Surely I've shared too much of my opinion by now, but until next time, I hope you all still play with your soul.